to try something new. Those of you who are able, please stand up. Okay, so I'm going to name some names. When you hear a name that you don't recognize, you can't tell me anything about them, I'd like you to take a seat and stay seated. The last person standing, we're going to see what they know, okay? All right. Eric Garner, Mike Brown, Tamir Rice, Freddie Gray. So those of you who are still standing, I'd like you to turn around and take a look. I'd say half to most of the people are still standing. So let's continue. Michelle Cusseau. Tanisha Anderson. Ara Russer. Megan Hockaday. So if we look around again, there are about 4 people still standing. And actually, I'm not going to put you on the spot. I just say that to encourage transparency, so you can be seated. So those of you who recognize the first group of names know that these were African Americans who've been killed by the police over the last 2.5 years. What you may not know is that the other list is also African Americans who have been killed within the last 2 years. Only one thing distinguishes the names that you know from the names that you don't know: gender.
Intersectionality was a term coined by Miss Crenshaw in 1989 to highlight different forms of discrimination that can interact and overlap. She felt it was necessary for feminists to take into account the needs of women from a variety of backgrounds when considering social questions and issues to advocate for. Intersectionality is now used to encompass other identities, such as sexual orientation, gender identity, nationality, class, disability, as well as race and gender. Recently, there have been some social movements that intend to highlight some forms of intersectionality. One such case is #Black Lives Matter. It was a movement started in 2012 after Trayvon Martin was killed by George Zimmerman to call to action and to respond to the virulent anti-black racism prevalent in our society. What many people do not know is that #Black Lives Matter was started by 3 black queer women, Alicia Garza, Opal Tometi, and Patrice Colors. The roots of the new organization has begun to rebuild the Black Liberation Movement. It aims to highlight the other forms of identity, intersectionality, which get backseated by straight cis black men. It aims to also highlight the importance of black queer and trans folks, disabled folks, black undocumented folks, folks with records, women, and all black lives along the gender spectrum.
I was born in Mexico, but I was raised in the United States, but I fully identify as being Mexican. I am a female, and I come from a low-income family and have received basically all federal support throughout my life because my parents don't make enough money because of their education and because we are direct immigrants to the nation. Hi, I'm Edith. I am a junior child studies and ethnic studies double major with a pre-teaching emphasis. I believe that as a society we should become allies for the marginalized and minority groups. I think that one of the main points that and main goals that we should have is staying educated and being aware of the different events that are happening across the world, not just in the United States. The United States is very particular in the way that we treat our minority groups. And I think that we still have a lot to learn from other countries, but also see what other countries are doing that we may want to steer away from. And I think one of the ways is by reading a lot. There's a lot of authors that across the world that are writing on a lot of these different marginalized communities, and maybe even you can seek out that information and go around, talk to people, get to know people's stories, and by getting to know their stories, you can tell their stories.
Hi, my name is Christian Contreras. I am 21, male, straight. I'm from Sacramento, California, and my social class, economic class, is upper class, middle class, around that range. So I'm actually half white, half Mexican, but I identify as white. I think when you're trying to incorporate the voices of people in minority groups, LGBTQ communities, and just groups of people that aren't necessarily represented as the majority, it's important to keep an open perspective. I know at Santa Clara University, there's the Multicultural Center on campus. They offer multiple clubs and different organizations to be a part of in which you can express yourself and be, with people of your background and heritage and whatnot. And I think it's just important to offer those spaces where people can be open and have a, dialogue about those specific issues associated with, being in a minority population, such as Santa Clara University. Also, I just think it's important to keep in mind that people don't always share the same views and also don't share the same perspective on things in life. And so by being open-minded as someone who, because I identify as myself as white, so I think I try to keep an open perspective and open mind about what other people are saying and being receptive to different cultures and backgrounds whenever I encounter them in life. And it's not necessarily just background or ethnicity, it's also like different personality, different taste, and whatever in life comes in life. So I think there's just different things where it's important just to keep an open perspective toward people in minority backgrounds and other perspectives that I don't necessarily have.
My name is Luis Rodriguez. I am a senior at Santa Clara University. I'm 21 years old. I identify as a male. I'm a marketing major with an international business minor. I am Mexican. My sexual orientation is straight, and my socioeconomic status is lower class. I think it starts with opening up a chain of communication. It sounds kind of counterintuitive, but I would say kind of stop or not paying too much attention to the labels, like race or gender, because in today's age, a lot of people don't identify as a, binary race or binary gender, and they also identify as a mixed race. So I think labels are getting a little bit more complicated. So I think to kind of get people into the conversation, to talk to one another, is to pretty much let go of all those labels and give them a voice, give them something that they can talk about, pretty much, because at the end of the day, we're all people. We all have our differences and our similarities, and I think that giving everyone a fair shot to share their experiences and their background and their opinions is very important, and to give them a safe environment to be themselves is what I think. A safe environment allows people to speak about values that they believe about without being judged, but at the same time, I think that a safe environment also is a place where we're challenged to look at the other side of the spectrum, kind of a more mature way of seeing things instead of just asking for validation on what our beliefs are. And obviously just starting a dialogue with all of our different views and what we believe in, and then, speaking with someone else who may have slightly different views, slightly different beliefs.
Hi, my name is Edith. I identify as female. My sexual orientation is gay or lesbian. I grew up in an upper middle class family. And I identify as a Mexican American. I think it's important to have dialogue between the community or within the community in order for us to expand not only our knowledge, but also just be able to have conversations and be able to connect with other people and kind of hear their opinions and experiences. So I definitely think that that's important to have open dialogue with people of your community, as well as looking to people that already have established I suppose like any person of color really that has established either transgender or any part of the LGBT Q plus under that umbrella, that we can kind of look to and to look for as an example or as inspiration or anything like that, so that we're able to have this dialogue, and it's not just some kind of world that's I guess unfamiliar to us, and we can look up to these people and or point to them and say, hey, like, this person and this person. And obviously it helps if they're of color, because we have those examples to kind of illustrate.